All right, welcome back. It's me, Lou. All right, so right now the screen looks really crazy. So let me close this window real fast. All right, so for today's video, for the weekly vlog, we're going to talk about checklists and why they are important to the hobby. Whether or not you're like new to collecting action figures, or if you're like an old hag at this, having a checklist I think is one of the most valuable resources you can have in your back pocket. Literally. Checklists are important because, not only do they help you maintain your collection, but they also help you maintain your sanity, which is probably the most important thing as you journey through the world of action figure collecting. So I kind of made this thing right here. This was more so for the thumbnail, but this is stuff that hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about. We're going to talk about online resources, creating rules, your needs versus your wants, and most importantly, having fun. Okay, so let's begin. So we're going to talk about online resources first. I'm going to open up my web browser. All right, so I'm going to use this as an example. Like for my YouTube channel, I do a lot of action figure reviews, and the line of action figures I seem to review the most is McFarlane action figures. So let's say that I'm new to the hobby. Let's say that I was at Walmart or Target, and then I happened to wander down the toy aisle, and I saw a McFarlane action figure, and I picked it up. I'm like, wow, this is a great Superman action figure. And then I flip the box to the back, and then I kind of see, at the bottom which figures are out. So being new to the hobby, I don't know, if these are the only like 5 figures that are currently available, or if there's like been previous waves or previous lines, so I don't really know what to expect from the line. For some action figures, for example, like Mattel and their Masters of the Universe Origins, they do a great job of providing like a checklist of like figures that are currently available in the wave. This is something that was practiced a lot in the 80s and 90s, and it's a very invaluable resource to have, some idea of what's out there. Here's a Power of the Force, probably from 1995, and then when you look at the back of the box, it kind of gave you an idea of the figures that were currently available, and also the vehicles and stuff. And if you travel back a little bit further, this is a April O'Neil TMNT by Playmates, and this is what I love to see. I love to see it when they encompass like almost like everything that's available. So it's really cool. Back in the day, we got a lot of this kind of stuff. Nowadays, you don't really get too much information about what's available on the actual product. For example, if you buy like a Hasbro Power Rangers Lightning figure or a G.I. Joe Classified Series figure, if you look on the back of the box, there's no indication of what else is available. So one thing that's really important is, going online and exploring, what's out there. So in this case, I'm going to use McFarlane Toys as an example. So here in my web browser, I'm just going to type in McFarlane checklist, and then it should pull up some helpful resources. One thing you could do also, you could go straight to the horse's mouth. You can actually just go to the I think McFarlane Toys website. Let's do that first. McFarlane Toys, and then if you go to the McFarlane Toy Store, it's at McFarlaneToys.com. It gives you an idea, straight from the horse's mouth, which action figures they've created. The one thing I find difficult, though, with the McFarlane Toys website, it's, the website's kind of built to sell product. So sometimes the navigation isn't necessarily the best in terms of trying to find what you need to know. But, I mean, it is helpful. Like, for example, here, the featured items, they kind of give you a list of all the new items that are available. And that's a great way of like gauging what's currently out on the shelves. For example, here we have the Mega figures here. We have Frankenstein and Mongol. You could buy an Arkham Knights bundle. McFarlane, they brought back their Dragons line. There's currently a new Flash Wave available. So this is a very, very great tool for figuring out what's currently on the market. And the nice thing is, since the McFarlane Toy Store is built to sell product, it's easy to like see what you want and just easily add it to your cart, and you don't have to worry about like jumping in your car and checking out all the stores and whatnot. But for me, that was always kind of like half the fun, you know, getting in the car with my friends and then just traveling from store to store, you know, seeing what was out there. That's how things were like in the 90s and early 2000s. Nowadays, collectors are very spoiled. You know, there's apps like BrickSeek where you can check the inventory. You can go immediately to like the Target or Walmart websites and see what's in their inventory, and you can have the product either shipped to your house, or you can like you know, schedule a pickup. And it's amazing. You know, we live in an age of like immediacy and convenience, so it's great that those retail outlets offer that kind of stuff. But going back to checklists, so here on the McFarlane Toys website, we can like click over the multiverse tab, and it'll give us a list of, you know, I'm not sure if this is every wave that's come out, but it's a great way of just figuring out what's out there. So DC Direct is actually McFarlane's partnership with DC's Collectibles, and then let's click on that real quick. So when you go onto like an online retailer such as McFarlane, in a way, this is kind of like providing you a list of what's out there. And it's kind of cool because you can kind of gauge, you know, the suggested retail price. You know, if you click on a product, the cool thing is sometimes they'll give you all the details. Not only will they provide you like images of the products, you know, you could like view it from different angles, you know, which is always helpful, especially if you don't see these things in stores. Like some of these items are hard to come across out in the wild, so for them to have these kind of like options is great. And then you get an idea of the cost of it, and then the SKU, which is really helpful. You know, this if you're trying to track this down, I think, you know, you just record the SKU, and then you can either go to like the retail store itself, like Target, and ask if they have this in stock, and just provide the number. Or I think BrickSeek even. So this is the McFarlane website. Now, I talked earlier about how the navigation here is a little bit, it's made to kind of like push product. It's not necessarily organized the best way. So for example, let's take a look at, let's get a list for all the DC multi-packs. So this is kind of cool. It gives you a list here of what's currently available, and that's very helpful. Now, I recently came across a website. Where is it? It's figureslist.co. Figureslist.co. And wait, is that or is it Figure List? I think Figure Lists or Figure List, I think. All right, yeah. So it's figurelist.co. Now, this website I came across a few weeks ago. It's a website by the fans, made for the fans, and I think they also offer an app that you could download to your phone to help you with your collecting needs. Now, the cool thing with figurelist.co, as you can see here, it's a giant database, and the stock website, when you go to figurelist.co, the homepage directs you to like this. And I think the website was initially started as a way of tracking what Marvel Legends figures were currently out. And it's pretty cool because it's very comprehensive. And here's where they talk about the app. You can search and explore, you can save your figures and all this. I haven't installed the app yet because I don't necessarily need it right now. But this is the cool part. So for this website, if you're a Marvel Legends collector, this is where like creating a checklist, you know, is very invaluable, and this is a great way to start. This website's insane because they track Marvel Legends all the way back to the origin year of 2002. So if you're old enough to remember this, it's nuts. So you can like click on any of these years, 2002 through 2022. Not only do they cover the current Hasbro figures, but in the early 2000s, this is when the line was owned by Toy Biz. So for example, let's go to 2002. Let's load in. And it's pretty neat. They kind of give you all the figures that came out this year. And this will give you an idea of what was, you know, that came out back in the day. Like if you're a collector and you're more into like collecting like vintage toys, classic toys, or stuff that came out some years ago, but you weren't really collecting them at the time. You know, for example, going to this website for Marvel Legends is awesome because it's so comprehensive. It's a fun database, and to let you know what came out at the time. Like if you wondered if there was ever a Marvel Legends Namor back in the early 2000s, you know, there it is. You know, if there's the Doctor Doom, you know, not only do you know that there's a Doctor Doom with the Doombot variant, but there's also the stock unmasked one. You know, it lets you know about the different variations of the Thing. You know, you had the trench coat variation versus the standard one, and this is great. You know, it's so easy for you to like start creating your own checklist by using these online resources. And let's take a look at another year. Let's take a look at a more recent Hasbro, you know, for 2022. And this will give you an idea of what's currently out, you know, that came out this year. So it's a really, really cool way of just knowing, you know, what you missed or what you need in your collection. Like for me, I have a hard time keeping track of exclusives, especially when it comes to like stuff like the Comic-Con exclusives and the store exclusives. The nice thing with this is that everything's here. You know, it lets you know all the different packing variations, all the different waves. You know, there's stuff that's beyond the stock Marvel Legends line, like they have the VHS themed X-Men animated series, a list of action figures here, and it's great. So, you know, you can easily create your checklists by using these resources. It's a fun way to know, you know, what's currently out, you know, what you might have missed, you know, what you need, and, you know, just create your list off of that. And so when I say creating a list, you know, what does that necessarily entail? For many people nowadays, it's, you know, using your phone, and you might have, like, for example, if you're on like an iPhone with iOS, there's the Notes app. You know, you can easily just open that up and just start creating lists. You know, you could create a list for like a Marvel Legends list of figures you might be on the hunt for. You might create another document listing all the Star Wars figs. So it's a nice way of you know, keeping it in your back pocket, you know, using a phone. If you're like me and you're old school, you can always just write down on a piece of paper and just keep it in your wallet. You know, it just depends on how large your list is. For me, like years ago when I started collecting the Marvel Universe 3 3/4 line, I remember I had a list on paper, and it was a pretty substantial list because I got into the line a little bit late. So I think at the most I might have had 32 figures on the list. And for me, it was always fun to like go to like a comic book convention or a toy show, and every time I'd find like excuse me, a new figure, you know, I just check it off the list. And you know, it took me maybe like a year and a half to go through the whole thing until I was done. And there was a kind of like a sense of satisfaction that I got everything, you know, squared away, and I had all the figures I was on the hunt for. So one of the most important things about creating a list is that it helps you establish rules when it comes to collecting action figures. You know, some people, much like myself nowadays, I don't necessarily always have a list on me or in my head, because for the most part, I think I have everything I need. So at this point, I'm just buying stuff that I want, which is a very dangerous thing, because it gets to the point where, you know, I run out of room, or worse yet, you know, you run out of money. So creating rules for yourself, it's very, very important. It helps you stay within your budget. It gives you some peace of mind. For example, let's say that you run off to like Target, and you're running you know, you're not necessarily looking for toys. You're more so just doing errands and shopping for groceries. But like always, you happen to run down the toy aisle, you know, first before checking out the groceries. And then you see a new wave of action figures. And then, you know, if you have a list on you and already in your head, it's predetermined what you're looking for. If you don't have a list on you, you know, that's kind of everything's fair game. And then you might just be buying stuff impulsively, which you might regret later. So that's why a list is helpful, because it helps you create boundaries for like what you necessarily need versus what you want. So I think that's one of the important things about having a list, is it creates rules, it creates boundaries, and having boundaries is important because it keeps you confined within a certain space in your hobby collecting. You know, anytime you exceed it, you always run the risk of turning the hobby into something that you might regret later, you know. So, you know, creating rules for yourself and having lists is very important. And on the subject of needs versus wants, sometimes you have to just ask yourself, you know, if you run into a situation, you know, like, on a scale of like 1 to 10, how bad do you need this action figure? You know, like let's say like you're kind of in a pinch and you're waiting till payday, you know, just put it off. You don't need it now. Or if you're in a situation where, you know, maybe you're one figure away from completing the Build-A-Figure or completing like a certain wave or a set, and the figure's on your list, you know, your list kind of dictates to you what you need to buy right then and there. And if it's on your list, you know, go for it. If it's not on your list, put it down and just say maybe next time, and just reevaluate, you know, your needs versus your wants. All right, so back to this website. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, in terms of looking for McFarlane figures, this website's great for that. Unfortunately, though, they don't have a link to their McFarlane stuff, which is kind of bizarre. So you want to do a search for figure list, and then type in McFarlane, or actually type figure list, I think .co, then McFarlane, and I think you should pull up the direct link to the website. And here it is. It's at the top, McFarlane Toys figure list. So you want to go to figurelist.co, brands, McFarlane Toys. Like I said, if you go to the figure list, a landing page straight up, there's no link to the McFarlane section, so you have to actually seek it out through your browser. If you click on this, so the way this is set up is a lot cleaner and a lot easier to navigate than wait, it took me here. All right, so this is kind of wonky. All right, let's go back a second, because yeah, like I said, the navigation on this isn't the greatest. Where is it? I found it the other day. Let's just do figure list McFarlane. See if that works. Figure list, that's, you know, McFarlane. I should, you know, I should have just bookmarked it. It's horrible that I'm seeking this out like this. It's gonna kill time that way. All right, let's do figure list. Figurelist.co. I think it's McFarlane. All right, yeah, it's now the page can't be found. Where's McFarlane Toys? No, it's not there either. All right, this is kind of, I apologize, this is kind of a buzzkill. I found the website not too long ago. Just wait. Unless the website wasn't ready yet, and maybe I found it earlier or something. McFarlane checklist. And as you can see, there's other websites that have checklists, but this one was really cool. I want to see if I can find a link to it. Where is it? Or your figure list, and then we type McFarlane brands. Yeah, that's odd. The website's not coming up. Maybe if I do a manual search here, McFarlane. Or is it? All right, just give me a second. This is, yeah, I apologize in advance. It seems like, I'm not sure if what they did, but I had no issue finding this website earlier. DC Multiverse, do McFarlane Multiverse checklist. Yeah, they must have restructured their website since the last time I checked it out, and that was only like a week ago, so. Yeah, it's giving me page not found, so I don't know what they did with it. Unless, it's like I said, unless the website wasn't necessarily ready to go online yet, and I just happened to check it out early, so. Let's take a look at this instead. Let's check out Action Figure 411. I think I looked at this one also. Alright, so I was on this one earlier in the week, and this is actually a helpful one also because, so we're at actionfigure411.com, and this is their McFarlane checklist, and it's organized well. Also, the only thing is I like the figurelist.co website a lot because not only did they provide the visual, but everything was kind of just structured visually, so you could just look at it all on one page. This one's helpful because it tells you, like for example, Batman Flashpoint, it's a Target exclusive. They give you the year production, and they let you know which wave it's in. So you just pretty much just read through the list down here. It's not necessarily in alphabetical order, unfortunately. And you can easily just click on any of these figures, and then it'll pull up an image and all the information. Oh, but this one's cool too because it gives you the average, for example, on eBay of the sold auctions. So this will give you an idea of the secondary market price on the figure, what it's currently going for. So this is a great resource. So to reiterate, the Action Figure 411 website they provide a great resource for finding like checklists for McFarlane stuff, which is great. And if you go to the website, on their landing page, you have the listing of all the lines to cover from Star Wars, Marvel Legends, Transformers, Turtles, DC, and let's start from the beginning. Alright, so let's pretend we're starting all over again. So we're going to jump to actionfigure411.com right up here. And let's say I want to check out McFarlane. So I'll go to DC. And the cool thing is that they also cover not only McFarlane, but also Mattel. So if you're on the hunt for some of the older like DC classics, this is the way to go. And then it's broken up into subcategories. So if we have the McFarlane stuff over here, multiverse action figures. So there's a price and visual guide. Let's click on visual guides first. Oh, I take it back. All right, so this website's this one's actually better than the figurelist.co website. So this is what I'm talking about. Okay, let's say I'm new to collecting McFarlane toys, and I'm like, I don't know what's out there. You know, these action figures look great. So actionfigure411.com. You know, you jump on here. You know, you navigate through, and you come to the McFarlane stuff, and you have this amazing list of figures. And the nice thing I really appreciate about this is that everything is laid out for you in front of you. Like it's one thing to read through a list, like like on a normal list, like number 1 it says this, Batman, number 2, Robin, whatever. But it's really cool when you get to see everything at your disposal right in front of you. So you can see what the figure looks like in the box. It looks like they have the variations next to each other. For example, animated Batman, you can see comes in blue and gray and also black and gray. And I think the rows might be dictated also by wave, I think. But this is nuts though. So this is, I'm not sure if this is every figure. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said in like some of my videos, it's nuts that I think McFarlane and the Multiverse line launched, I think, in 2020, and it's so insane that that within a little over 2 years, when was the release date on this guy? Yeah, so it's nuts that within a little over 2 years, these are all the McFarlane figures that came out. It's nuts. Look at that. So this is where creating a list is really important because, if you're a completionist, this is the place to go to find out wherever, a list of all the action figures that were released through McFarlane. So if you're a completionist, you know which ones to get. If you're someone that just likes to collect key specific figures, or maybe you just want to build up a team of Justice League action figures, this is great to go here also, because you can easily just eyeball and see which figures you want. For example, let's say I want to create like a Batman family. I can just run through this and go, okay, I need a Batgirl, I need a Nightwing, and then the cool thing is that about seeing these right here right now is that you can even decide which variation. Do I want the new 52 Nightwing or the Joker Nightwing? So this is one of those really cool things. And man, it's like I said, this is crazy. It's amazing how many figures came out in like a little over 2 years. And this is the fun stuff too. If you're more into like the Mattel DC Classics or Multiverse, it looks like they cover some of the later waves right here. Oh, they also have a list of the Build-A-Figures, which is cool. So I think one of the scary things too is that if you're new to the hobby, some of you might find this a little bit overwhelming. You know, especially like if you feel like you missed out on a lot and you need to play catch up. You know, I think your wallet can only go so far, and your your sanity can only go so far. So you know, creating lists and creating rules, that's where it comes in as a very helpful resource, because it helps you manage, you know, not only what you're adding to your collection, but also helps you manage your sanity. It's also a good way of you know, trying to figure out, you know, if you know what you want to sell. Like if you're a collector and you know, not only do you collect action figures for your own collection, but if you love playing the game of like, you know, rolling stuff over, you know, for a higher price later on, you know, creating a list could be very invaluable in that sense also. You know, you can create a list for yourself knowing what the chase figures are, what the rare figures are, and you can always hunt those down. And the nice thing with a website like this is that since it gives you a list and also, you know, tells you on eBay what the sold auctions were, it gives you an average of what the, you know, the current, you know, market price is on the secondary market. So it's a great way if you're like a seller to like gauge, you know, how much should I charge for this action figure. And or if you're like on the hunt for one, you know, just know, you know, what's a reasonable price. You know, you don't want to get screwed over and pay too much for a figure. You kind of want to hover, you know, around what the sold auctions were. And ideally, if you're a buyer, you want to buy something that, you know, where you can save a little bit, some money. So that's one way of dealing with things on the McFarlane end. Real quick, let's take a look at some other stuff. So Star Wars is a big thing. If you're a Star Wars collector, there was one website back in the day. I'm not sure. I think it got absorbed by another Star Wars website. I think it was JediBusiness.com. I think that was the website. Yeah, it might have got absorbed by Temple Archives, because this was a great website. Because if you, let's say for example, you're on the hunt for like a Luke Skywalker figure, you'd come to this website, which is JediTempleArchives.com, you know, also JediBusiness.com, and then you could go to on the navigation on your right, I think you go to visual guides. And the cool thing with this, it kind of gives you an idea of like all the different versions of a figure there might be. For example, let's do vintage collection. And then not only does it give you a list of all the figures and all the waves, but this isn't what I'm looking for. I'm trying to find the comparison. Where is it? I'm not sure if this is the website. It might be, but maybe they've changed the navigation. Because on one of these Star Wars websites, it was kind of cool because you could like do a search for like Luke Skywalker, and then it'd pull up every Luke Skywalker figure. And let's see if I could do that here. All right, yeah. So right here, search our visual guide database. For example, let's do Luke Skywalker. And yeah, so this is one of the cool things. The cool thing with a visual guide on this website on Jedi Temple Archives, excuse me, is that you can type in, you know, who you're looking for, and then you'll pull up this visual guide, which is awesome because it, you know, it is what it is. It's a visual guide. It'll tell you not only what line it is, you know, what size. You know, for example, it'll tell you this Luke is a Black Series figure. He's 6 inches. Came out in 2019. And then you can like compare it with all the other Lukes, which is great. So if you're on the hunt for like the perfect Luke Skywalker, because you know there's so many of them out there, a website like this is invaluable. You know, for many people, they don't need 10 different Luke Skywalkers in, his X-Wing costume. Ideally people just want the one perfect one. And that's where like a website like this is just like a crazy important resource. And as you can see, Luke Skywalker, there's a lot of Luke Skywalker figures. It has all the different variations. It includes, if he came with a vehicle and whatnot, or if he was in a multi-pack set. So it's just kind of unbelievable. If you're new to the hobby, if you're a lot younger, I think it's easy to be overwhelmed by all the options that are out there. Me being the age that I am, I grew up on the original Star Wars figures. So at the time, there was only like a handful of different Luke Skywalker figures to select from. Versus now, Star Wars is like, came out in what, like 1979, 78 or whatever. So, the property itself is like maybe like over 40 years old. I'm terrible at math, but within that period of time, there's countless of Luke Skywalker figures that have come out. So if you're new to the hobby, it could be very overwhelming about which one you need. So having these online resources is very, very invaluable. It's one of those things that really helps the hobby along. And the cool thing with discovering websites like this is that it's easy to get sidetracked and join a user group or check out the forums, and you can meet other like-minded people, which I think is one of the things that helps personally keep the hobby going and keeps you interested. It's always fun when you create new friends through this hobby, because it's no longer just about the toys and the action figures, but in some cases you can even develop meaningful relationships with these people that extend well beyond just collecting toys. And if you use action figures as a way to help enrich your personal life, more power to you. And I think that's one of the fun things about the hobby that's sometimes overlooked or underappreciated, is that sometimes collecting toys is kind of like a gateway into expanding your social life. Many times that just happens organically. There's some people that I'm connected to, nowadays, and I might have a relationship with them, 20 years later, and it all began with the spark of talking about toys, many years ago. And, since then, the relationship might have evolved where we don't even talk about toys anymore. But the fact that, way back when, stuff might have got started because you might have met someone at a toy store, or maybe you had a classmate or a coworker. And then as soon as you found out that you had a common interest, it kind of organically grew, into some sort of relationship. So that's the fun thing about the hobby that sometimes, is kind of taken for granted, the kind of things that, these little action figures bring into our lives. All right, so I think I've kind of said my piece for this vlog. I apologize if it's like I said, I could be a little bit hyper sometimes and talk a little bit too fast. And this vlog, I kind of felt a little bit short because I was kind of hoping to show off this one website, but for whatever reason, I can't find the navigation to the McFarlane section. And I wasn't sure if, if it's actually live or if I just happened to stumble upon it early. But either way, this is, online resources is something that you should just always kind of incorporate into your collecting hobby. It provides a way for you to manage what you're looking for, helps you manage your mentality. And, the most important thing is always, have fun with it. Don't take the hobby to the extremes. And just roll with it. It's easy to get sucked up into it. I mean, I've I have my share of regrets and impulsive purchases and whatnot. But the times when I did have a list, it kind of kept my collecting in check. It kind of created boundaries and helped keep me confined within a certain play space. And I think that's very important. All right, so let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I will see you at the next one. All right, later.